And good morning, Rotarians and guests. It's good to see everybody here. We have an exciting program here today. To start us off, I'd like to call upon Club Secretary Chris Barker to introduce some guests.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Thank you for joining us today. What we're going to do is ask the Rotarians to come up with their guests so they can make a brief introduction. So today we have Craig Tallman and Allison Feaster, and when they're done, then Den Rich is going to introduce his guests at his table, and Jane Howington can introduce her guests during the presentation. Thank you.
I am pleased to welcome back Elizabeth Kolick. This is her third meeting. She's been involved in Rotary for the last 15 years, since high school, if you can believe that. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Well, as usual, I have prepared comments this morning, but I really, after sitting here listening to all of you chat with Brian, does he really need an introduction this morning? It's my pleasure to introduce Brian McHugh to all of you this morning. Brian is a guest of mine, and talking with him, several things come to mind. In the past, he's a sales and management professional, most recently a chief operating officer with a $65 million chemical company. But I think the thing that certainly has made an impression on me over years past, and perhaps several of you, Brian founded the Hudson High School Rugby Club over 15 years ago. And the program has grown immensely over the years, becoming an official sport of the high school, integrated with the middle school program as well. My son actually played for Brian in the year 2003 on that particular club, the second year they were in existence. So welcome, Brian. We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great.
Okay, moving on. I'd like to call upon, Den Rich, sorry. Yes.
A few more guests, starting, hopefully, yes, on my right, Jerry Updegraff, who soon to become chair of the marketing committee and a valued neighbor in the Loopy Loop. And next to him, Rich Wilk, I beg your pardon, Rich is in charge of security here at Laurel Lake, and we're very pleased that he keeps us all safe. Jim Fosnight, Director of Maintenance here. He keeps everything working and in order, so we're very proud of him. And now somebody that keeps me in order, the good wife, Mary Rich. Good morning, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Sorry. I'd like to ask Gail Royster to come up and talk about our upcoming family Rotary picnic.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, Rotarians. The clipboard, I think, has made it to over yonder, that side. And on Sunday, August 2nd, we're going to have a family picnic, which means you bring your significant other, you bring your kids, and we're going to be at Cascade Park. We're going to have a scavenger hunt going through the park, which I think should be a lot of fun, as well as other games. And we'll top it off with the IC ice cream truck by Dr. Peter Schmid. And as part of that, the ice cream is actually free. However, we will have a little bucket there if you choose to make a donation, and that donation will go to the third grade dictionary program that our club has been involved in. And then if you're still going strong, we'll go over to the green to enjoy the concert on the green. So it should be a lot of fun. This clipboard is still making its rounds. Thank you very much.
And that is Sunday, August the 2nd. And there's a couple of other events that are coming up. Don't forget the Bridgestone Invitational, August 3rd through 9th. We are selling tickets, and we benefit Rotary for every ticket that we sell, so you can see the website for further information. The next event is the District 6630 End Polio event now at the Cleveland Indians. That's on Friday, August the 7th. And this event, you will join about 350 other Rotarians throughout Northeast Ohio. We attend the game. We have a dinner at the Terrace Club. We get to parade the field before the game, and you get to have this great-looking T-shirt, so you can wear this when you parade the field before the game. But it's a nice event, and the flyer is on the website. So I would like to call upon now Liz Murphy. Where is Liz? And Liz is a past member of our club, a good friend to our club, and currently the executive director of Destination Hudson. And Liz has a short presentation.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. I promise it'll be very short, very short. Most of you probably know that thanks to the generosity of the City of Hudson, Destination Hudson and the Visitor Center are going to be moving to the first floor of Town Hall and joining a brand new fire museum. So this is all very exciting, and we have a variety of fundraisers going on. But each of you have at your place a little map of the first floor of Town Hall that shows you Yes, there it is. Hudson Community Foundation is doing the collecting of all the funds. And then we got so excited about all this moving to Town Hall that the Visitor Center and Destination Hudson sort of forgot that we still needed to function. So we have come up with something to raise some operating funds, and those are the little clock towers. All of you have at least one or two little pamphlets on your table, but I did go around showing them. And we're starting off with a sale of a box set, a very unique box set, and that's going to be a fundraiser. And all the details are on this form. I don't want to take any more of your time, but our goal is to sell 300 of them, and then the individual little clock towers will be for sale eventually. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions? Briefly, I can maybe take two. No questions. Great. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to the main part of the program. Before we do, James asked that I remind you, during the Q&A following the program, please use a handheld microphone. They'll be circulating, they'll be available, because we are on television, and in order to get the voice on, we need you to use a handheld mic. George Snyder will introduce our program for the day.
Good morning, Rotarians. Before introducing our speaker, I would just like to say a word of welcome to a fellow Hudson resident, a past Rotary speaker, a personal friend of mine, Jan Gussick, who is the president and CEO of IKEA Marketing Communications. Jan, welcome, and her team. Jan and the team are the creative brains behind not only the mysterious sign you've been seeing on the Hudson Clock Tower, but also the large metal flower sculptures that are all over Akron, celebrating, what is it, the centennial of Akron Children's Hospital. So we're delighted to have you and your other guests, and welcome back to Rotary. Thank you. As I think all of our club members know, it is our policy when we're considering a prospective member, and a prospective member is considering us, to ask them to attend 3 club meetings, and that is just to make sure that they're a good fit with us, and we're a good fit with them. And our speaker this morning, Jane Howington, made her first appearance here last year, but shortly after she became city manager of Hudson. She came back 2 weeks ago to report on the progress of several important projects in Hudson, and that was her second meeting. She's here again this morning, though Jane, no pressure, but just saying, if you'd like to become a member, we would be happy to take your application. I am going to dispense with any kind of biographical information because Jane was here 2 weeks ago. You know her. Her resume is city manager of several important towns, including Newport, Rhode Island. She has been here just about a year. She has done a marvelous job with the city government. She's launched a number of initiatives. They're all proceeding at once, which I think to the great delight of City Council. So without further ado, and to explain, if any of you still don't understand what something big is all about, ladies and gentlemen, City Manager Jane Howington.
Thank you, George. I didn't eat breakfast today, so does that mean I get one more free pass? Just asking. Thank you, and thank you so much for allowing us to, and the whole team, to be here to unveil this very exciting initiative. This has been just a tremendous experience for an empowering thing that our staff can do. And let me introduce you to a couple of key members of our team. First, our marketing and communications manager, Jody Roberts, is here. Jody. Our IS, Informational Systems Manager, Bill Hilbish, is here. Frank Camarado, the Assistant City Manager for Operations, and Chuck Weedy, our Economic Development Director, and Maureen Reich, who is the Office Manager for this initiative, as well as another important part of the team is Akia. Jan, Nicole, and Bridget are here. Every one of these folks has half a dozen or so people behind them supporting this initiative and doing what we're trying to do to help both the economic development and business climate of the community, as well as all of the residents of the community and the quality of life that we ultimately want to offer to every one of you, as well as the visitors. So let's get started here. I think you've seen this before. I think everybody knows something big is coming. What's going on? It seems to be a mystery that's caught on, and one of the reasons that we're doing this is not just as a lark and so on, but it's a very important thing to build community awareness as we go through this, because there's a lot of impacts that are going to hit the businesses as well as the residents over the next couple of years. And we need to get the information out, and this is one fun way to be able to do it. And the fun is in some of the things that have happened. We've stirred up a whole lot of interest in this. There's a lot of Twitters and Facebook feeds and guesses on what's coming and so on. We've done chalk drawings, and thank goodness the rain finally stopped so we could get our chalk drawings done. All of these things have really done exactly, and again, thanks to Kia and the brains behind some of this, these ads have really made people aware that a change is happening in Hudson. So what kind of change do we think is happening? Well, one guess in the Facebook, Jimmy John's is coming, something big and something fast, and that's Jimmy John's. Unfortunately, that's not right. Let's see, Costco, but that's in Boston Heights, so that's disqualified right there, but it is big, and it is coming. What we're really trying to announce is the City of Hudson becoming one of the first gigabit communities in Ohio with our new broadband initiative and service to the community. This is our logo and our brand. This will be what you'll be seeing in marketing, public education, on the side of some of our trucks perhaps, and so on. It's again important. It's important because we've heard over the last couple of years, and I'm not going to read this to you, but just to point out a couple of things. It's very important because we took a survey last year after the council had said, we think that people need this, we think that businesses demand this, but go out and find out what you think and what facts there are. So we did surveys of both businesses and residential, and we found that the business community really needed to even be able to sustain what they currently are doing, really needed something more than they have. Survey after survey, fiber and broadband, fast speed, and so on was key to growing their businesses. And many of the businesses have said they have been unable to expand or even thinking of leaving Hudson because they had no dependability and no speed with which they could operate their businesses on. Yet this is becoming a key consideration. Fiber and broadband is an essential, almost utility-like service that businesses as well as residents need. So we've found that we were really having a lack of ability in attracting businesses without doing something with this. Furthermore, there's a lot more to just businesses. Quality of life. A lot of our residents have home offices. Some people do part-time work out of their home and part-time work out of an office somewhere else. And overwhelmingly, people are not able to provide their basic lifestyle services with their current internet service. And I have to tell you, it was very amusing last night at City Council. We had a member of the public come in who knows nothing about this and was imploring council if they could do anything to help bring some more dependability and some more capability to the apartment complex that he lived in, because people couldn't operate there. And I really wondered if Jan had planted him there, but she swears she didn't. So this is just when we did those surveys and found out, yes, there was a need, we needed to come up with a solution. We needed to come up with a solve. And we started, and I think I've mentioned this to a lot of you, we started by going out to our existing providers, ISP providers, who could not or would not really provide the investment in the community to become more dependable. So we went back to council and said, well, it has to be done. Nobody's willing to do it. So here we are doing it ourselves. And again, going back to our logo and our brand, everybody knows who Windstream is. Everybody knows who Time Warner is. We need to have everybody know who Hudson's broadband service is, Velocity Broadband. So the benefits. We're going to increase the capabilities of our businesses, the health, the breadth and depth of our businesses. Ultimately, once we get this right with our businesses, we're going to be expanding into the residential neighborhoods and providing to residences. So I just want to make sure people understand that this is a community-wide initiative. But we're starting small so that we get it right, and we're progressing forward as we develop. We have several communities, mostly bigger communities, but several communities in the country that have started doing this and offering this. There are very few in Ohio, and really none in our region. So this is really going to put Hudson in a whole different class of what we can provide to not only economic benefit, but quality of life. So we're just continuing to be forward-thinking community, and thank you very much to your city council and my city council for having the vision and having the courage to give us the ability to provide this to you. Now, what are we doing here, and how are we doing this? We have laid all the fiber. We've bought all the equipment. We're putting all the conduit in as we speak for our pilot launch. Our pilot launch is out on Boston Mills Road to the two business parks out there. We've put our data center is in. It's down back behind Acme, close to the water tower. That's going to be the hub of all the information. Again, all our equipment is there. All the connections are being made, and that will move us in as soon as we get the pilot launched, which will be around Labor Day. That'll light up 3 businesses initially, 6 businesses over the first probably 60 days. Evaluate it, make sure we get any kind of kinks out of the system, and then in January 1st we'll be starting to run cable, or planning to run cable to the downtown area, and that'll be our phase 2. So that will, depending on the weather and when we can bore all the conduit, we'll probably have some businesses down there signed up the first toward the second quarter of 2016. At the same time we're doing phase 2, we're starting to realize that we can do phase 3 about the same time, because the difference is phase 2 is boring conduit. We need an outside contractor to do that. We have that already secured. But the 91 corridor is above ground, putting it on the power poles. which we do in-house because of our power company. So we're going to be starting to work on those two phases somewhat simultaneously. And then we'll start branching out. The next phase will start branching out into areas like going out to Hudson Crossings and maybe down to Seasons Green area and so on. Now, we've put the community initiative in a separate category because this is a very, very dynamic thing. And while you can kind of see a linear approach here on the business side, the residential side is really different. We may well start attacking the provision of this service to residential areas as we go by. So if we're going out 303 toward Hudson Crossing, and we may see the development and start going right down Nicholson because of the, so we're not precluding and saying, okay, we do these four and then oh, residences are last. We're continuing to look at that. Just like technology advances, we're continuing to look at other ways. We may provide wireless, you know, have some sort of a conduit to one spot in a neighborhood and then provide wireless as a solution to that neighborhood. So I don't want to let people leave here without understanding that the residential areas are very important. We just want to use these guys as guinea pigs and make sure we've got it right before we provide it to the residents. So this is what you'll see. You'll see an ad in the hub today with this information. Our website is very important. The phone number is very important. We'll be providing information. Anybody that wants to sign up for it, get on our websites, call it, sign up for it as far as getting information. If you want to sign up for the service or you're interested in knowing about the service, you can talk to us there. We'll put you in that category, so we'll know that you're interested, and we'll be able to provide you with updates when we get close to your area. And you'll be seeing quite a lot of this in the future over the next couple months, because we need to make sure that the community understands this tremendous initiative that your city's providing for you for, again, both quality of life and economic development growth, and the ability that we have to, and the pride that we have to be able to offer this. So I think I will open it up for questions if there are any questions, and certainly any member of the team I may call on if your question is better aimed at them.
I'll just start off by saying that this is definitely needed. My wife works with a business in town that the internet that they currently have, I won't say with the businesses, but the internet went down for a day and they were basically out of business for the day. All their accounting, everything was on that. So definitely this is a great thing that happened to the businesses of Hudson.
Perhaps our biggest challenge is going to be getting it to all the businesses that want it. And we already know that the residential areas want it. So, you know, we don't want to trip ourselves up. We want to be able to make sure that we can provide you exceptional service. And I think you'll find that. We already do that for our power. So people are very familiar with the type of service that we can provide through Hudson Public Power, and you can expect no less for the broadband.
Yes. I have a question.
Where are you? Oh, thank you.
A couple of questions.
Thank you.
How expensive is this situation as it goes along, and what advantage is this to the common man?
So there's two basic advantages. First off, dependability is one, and capacity is the other. So oftentimes, you'll see your internet service slow way down right about the time school gets let out, because all the students are coming home, getting on the internet, getting on their appliances, if you will, and you start seeing the ability slow way down. The reliability and the dependability is the other major benefit that we see. We're local, you know where we are. We have just Hudson that we're servicing. at this point, and we aren't some, mega operation where you just, the average person is just a number. So so your two questions are, first of all, the benefit is dependability and reliability and speed and bandwidth, but the costs that we have, and we'll have our costs, well, they're public information and so on. You'll be seeing those as we send out more information, but our costs are at least equivalent or less, and I'll leave it at that, equivalent, mostly less than what you see through Windstream and Time Warner. But we have probably 2, 3, and 4 times the capacity that we're offering. So, and this gets kind of technical, but Time Warner will send you a flyer that says, commit to us for 3 years and we'll give you a $75 free shopping card and high-speed fiber for $29.99. But in the little fine print down below, it'll say that what they're providing you is like 10 by 1, which means that's the speed it goes up and the speed it comes down. Our very lowest level that we're providing is 25 by 25. So the capacity that we're offering you and the reliability and the speed is much greater for the same or less cost. Anybody else?
I have a question based on your, just to follow up to what you just said, because you half answered it. What is, talking about the current providers, what is their current or anticipated reaction to this? Are they just going to, oh, okay. What do you think they'll do?
Well, that's part of the heart of what we're doing right now and why this is such a big splash. When they realize that we're actually providing and what we're providing, we anticipate that you will be getting deluged with specials. And all you have to do is commit to them for 5 years. And we're not asking for commitments because we stand behind what we've got. So what we want to do is give you the education of what we're offering, and so that when you do look at these deals that some of the other providers are coming out with for tying you up for 5 or so years, you'll make an educated decision on whether you want to go with a provider like that or wait for us to come to your neighborhood or just go on a month-to-month. So, and actually a lot of businesses have converted to month because we have been trying to get our information out.
Jane, can I ask, I'm sorry, I'm over here.
Yep.
So is it your feeling that this is going to give us a competitive advantage in attracting businesses, or kind of just catch us up to where other communities are, other cities are, other, competing?
It's a competitive advantage. There's no doubt about it. We're not really lagging behind other cities. Other cities aren't able to provide this, so this will definitely bring a competitive advantage, not only for our existing businesses to expand, and everybody knows, well, everybody in my industry anyway knows that economic development is 90% retention and expansion. Sure. So it's just really important to do. Can I invite Jan up? She wants to add something.
Sorry, anybody who knows me knows I can't keep quiet for a minute. So I'd like to speak on behalf of, I own a business, a 65-person business here in Hudson. And I can tell you when the internet goes down, my employees leave the city. So one of the first questions was, how does this help the common man? So where I see this as, you have, my business is a very fast business, it's marketing, so we do a lot of uploading and a lot of downloading, and photos, videos, and as more and more people become used to seeing videos on their phones, it just needs to get faster and faster. So I have a very fast-moving business, and when the internet goes down, which is actually kind of frequently, pretty much every time it rains, it is really it really hurts my business. So that makes me think about companies like, you have some retail companies here, like a Joann Fabrics, and you have, or Joann, et cetera, stores, what they call themselves now. And you have a Step 2. These are folks who are doing business on the internet. So they're not only just promoting their business and doing their day-to-day, but they're actually expecting people from all over the nation to go to their websites and purchase products. So when the internet goes down for them, it really is a disaster. So I think the most important thing is that you, when you said what's the benefit to the common man, the benefit to the common man is that you will, number one, retain the businesses that you have here who are going to rely on this faster, better, more bandwidth broadband, and you're going to attract more. As part of the marketing, one of the things that the city has talked about is, you're going out now and trying to get people who want to move to the Midwest, so companies from all over the United States who want to come and move to the Midwest because of our work ethics and our trains and our waterways and all that stuff. Well, there's lots of businesses and lots of competition in that area. This will make the city one of the first gigabit cities in the Midwest, which means we can provide something now that no one else can provide, or that limited cities can provide, and that gives us something to go out and market to get even more businesses into the community. So the benefit to the common man is if business is the core driver of the community, without an everybody knows this, right? Without a strong economic core of business, the whole community fails, because they're paying a lot of taxes, and they're generating income, and they're bringing people to the city and to spend dollars. So that's really what the ultimate benefit is to, I think, the community, is this attraction and retention of big businesses. So thank you.
Jenny.
Okay, she's hired.
Over here in the back, Jane. Jane, how long have you and your team been planning for this day, and what would you say is the biggest obstacle to get to where you are now?
So, Mr. Hilbish came to council a couple years ago to try and and propose laying a loop of fiber to connect was it 2 years ago, Bill?
Yeah, it was a year ago, March.
A year ago, March. Bill went to council at their request. He was just talking about laying fiber to connect our city, all of our city facilities. So we had redundancy. So it was a year ago, last March, that council said, we really think we need to connect not just the city buildings, but everybody. Go back and do something to show us how we can do that. So last November, we hired a consultant to help us work on a business plan. December and January, we did the surveys I mentioned. In February of 2015, we went back to council and said, there is a business need, there is a residential need. We do have a business plan. We presented the business plan to council. Council said, we like that. Let's go ahead and first we'll try, because two options were offered, open network and our retail provider. Let's first try the open network and see if we can attract other ISPs to help this. So in March we did that. We went to all the ISPs, and we had two very small ISPs that had never really provided the entire offering that said they might want to participate. Well, two isn't enough, even if they're really big, well-heeled businesses and so on. So we went back to council and said, we're not getting that willingness to invest in the community from outside entities, so let's invest on our own. So it was the end of March, beginning of April, that council gave us the go-ahead to develop an implementation plan. We went back to council in June 11th of 2015 to say, this is our implementation plan. We think we can do this. If, we need your support, and if they were hoping that we could get it up sometime in the end of 2015. And so we had our implementation plan where I was saying, I want to get this lit up by Labor Day. And the consultants were saying, November 1st is really, that's the soonest, you're going to be able to do this. We just have an incredibly dedicated and talented team that just would not let anything get in their way. And that team includes council. I said to council, well, we can do this, but we're going to have to call some special meetings. We're going to have to, and they have a recess at the end of June. And we had to call a couple special meetings, and they came back so they could authorize our purchase of certain equipment. So this has just been an incredible team process to get this done, and we're ready to, as I mentioned earlier, we're ready. We're going to hit that Labor Day mark for at least the first. I know they still like, it just drives the insides, because we know how complicated this is, how complex. We have a Gantt chart, a daily Gantt chart that's just like huge long with every task and who's assigned to it and when it needs to be done. And I think Tuesday, when the consultants we were going through, every Tuesday morning we go through this to see where we are in all of these things. And our team was leading the consultants. 2 months ago, the consultants were telling us, and we were just, our heads were spinning with all the stuff that needed to be done. And before the consultants could even ask if we were doing something, the team members were saying, yep, that's done, yep, that's ordered, yep, that's in. So it's just incredible, the support that we've gotten from everybody. So that's a long-winded way of saying, you can tell I'm excited about it, and you can tell I'm excited about my team. This team is just phenomenal, really. You guys are so lucky to have these people working for you.
Jane, over here.
Thank you.
From the aspect of the so-called common man, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that for those of us who are just waiting to cut the cable, so to speak, this will make things like Netflix and Hulu and all of that so much faster, and you won't have to wait for movies to buffer and all that silly stuff. I think it's going to be a great boon, not only to businesses, and I totally agree with that, but to the average resident, it's going to make their smart TVs come alive.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
The common women will like it too.
Yeah. Well, Jane, congratulations to you and your team on this initiative. Clearly, there's a distinct competitive advantage, that Hudson will gain, and really, to Jim's point, the quality of life for all the citizenry is going to be, greatly improved as well. My question is very simple, but I'm just curious. In the plan, are there any remote areas in the community that it's too challenging to even get this service going at some point in the future? Or will the whole community be 100% covered? And if so, do you have a timeline given adjustments that will have to be made? Worst case scenario in terms of when the project will be completed?
Yeah, there are definitely some areas of the community that are, if you will, remote enough that to lay fiber down their road will be cost prohibitive. And some of us remember the time when cable TV was doing the same thing, and they were expanding out, and there were some areas of the community that were just never going to get cable TV, but because it's too expensive to lay. That's why we're experimenting or researching the wireless now, and the technology is getting progressive enough that wireless and satellite type connectivity may be the solution for those areas. One of the reasons that on our schedule we didn't put exact dates for each one is that this is so fluid. Once we've put the infrastructure in, which is the data center, and laid the foundation, which we've done now, this is very fluid with how much demand there is and how fast we can get that demand satisfied every step of the way. And even back in March, when Council was asking us questions about this, and we were saying, well, we're going to do the businesses first and then get out to the residents after. It was much more linear. So you can see, even in just a couple months, we're saying, that may not be appropriate. We think we probably can start looking at residential as we're doing this. So that's kind of a squirrely answer to not give you an exact date and exact time frame, but a year ago, March, when Mr. Hilbish first went to council, council's deadline, council's goal was to provide this to everybody within 5 years. So that's kind of the parameter that we're working from, is that 5-year goal of how we can provide this to everybody. Certainly, if we could flip a switch and get it to every single business and every single residence tomorrow, we would do that. But so we're kind of trying to compress that 5-year period, but making sure that our business model still works. Anybody else?
That's reasonable.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things. First of all, also a testimony as to how it affects us. I went to the doctor once with a broken hand and did the x-ray, and he came right back with it. And I said, well, who read the x-ray? He said, actually, it's a group out in Hawaii. Everything is done over the internet. So you may not even realize that your doctors are actually using the internet to then get x-rays read or just get other information. So presumably this would help them as well. My question is, exactly in the first phase, how is it done? Is it another cable into the buildings, or is it using current cabling, or how do they get the service?
Most often we provide a conduit to we call it a pedestal, to the outside of the building. And then they provide, some buildings already have conduit built in, so we just can use that, and then we go into the businesses. So let's take our 3 beta customers right now. We have 6 customers. 3 will go first. Over the next 2 weeks, our technical staff is meeting with them, determining how many drops, where their conduit is, where the pedestal should be. In some cases, pedestals are already there, so we can just link into that and so on. Some businesses already have IT staff if they're bigger, and so they take everything from the outside of the building kind of in, and some don't, and we provide that. So we provide all that hardware that goes into the building. So that is a little bit of a, which is a good point, that is a little bit of a, again, you can't just flip the switch, because every building has to be surveyed to determine where the conduit gets dropped, whether it's board, whether it's overhead, and where it gets dropped and how it goes into the buildings. The buildings out here, there's a lot of reasons why we chose the 2 office parks, one of which is most of those buildings already have conduit put inside the building, so it'll be easy. Once we get a pedestal to a building, there might be 4 companies in that building, but it'll be easier to get things there. First and Main won't be quite so easy because they don't have that, so we'll have to do a lot more surveying, a lot more engineering to determine how to get drops to each of the businesses. And that is true about the broken hand and the x-ray. Almost every one of your architectural plans now goes through the internet. Your dental records, your x-rays, everything is scanned and done through that, which is, again, one of the reasons why our medical personnel really need dependable, fast, reliable bandwidth. Yes, sir?
On a self-interest basis, I live here. I heard 303, but I didn't hear Boston Mills. Is there any timing in your plans that include Boston Mills?
So Boston Mills already has conduit in it. We ran conduit out to our MSC to that park, which is obviously one of the reasons why we chose that. Now that conduit has 27 strands? 24 strands in it. This is kind of getting technical, but so we could never provide broadband for everybody that needed it along Boston Mills on that amount. Our conduit that we're running to, the new conduit that we're laying to all the other areas is 288 strands. So you can see the difference. So we know that we can't really provide much more than maybe 30 businesses on the existing conduit. So we've already purchased the 288 strand conduit that will run out here to replace what we have. So in answer to your question, there are potential opportunities for residential areas along Boston Mills to get tied in as we understand the program. So once we get into the downtown area, we'll simultaneously be working this fiber up, and these will probably be the first neighborhoods we'll say, can we do these? How can we do this? Because we will have the fiber already here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of our unveiling, and please keep in touch with us.
Well, thank you, Jane. That was exciting news. And don't forget, we are on television. So, Rotarians, I encourage you to share this with your friends. Let them know it's on TV. Share them with your friends that were unable to be here today. There's a lot of good information that was provided today. I'd like to thank our greeter, Evan McCauley, our audio and visual and setup crew, Larry Santon, John Hairston, Den Rich, Tom Tobin, James Field, and Ron Barnhouse. Our meeting next week is a club assembly on July 29th. The purpose of this meeting will be to discuss the business of running the club. So you'll hear from a number of our committee chairs and officers and get an update on their functions and some initiatives that we have planned for our club going forward. Next, we'll have our drawing for Rotabuck, and that is $16 to the winner, and our jackpot is $581. And I will let Mary Rich, the good wife, draw the And the winning number, the last four digits, 3890. 3890. Joe, again. Okay, there is one black marble in there. I see it. Okay, good.
It's not black.
No,
No, they're still there.
That's not the black. That's.
It looked black.
Did you see the look on
put that in the pot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Joe donated his winnings. Joe donated his winnings to the club. So thank you, Joe. Thank you very much, Rotarians and guests. This concludes our meeting.